A mother's regret, the secret that time couldn't bury. 25 years ago, Victoria Whitmore had the world at her feet. Born into old money, she was the heir to the Whitmore fortune, destined for a life of luxury. But one fateful decision changed everything. At just 22, Victoria fell in love with a man her family despised, Daniel Carter, a struggling artist. When she became pregnant, her parents were furious. They gave her an ultimatum: abandon the child and maintain her status, or be disowned and cast out of the family's wealth and power. Terrified and heartbroken, Victoria made the hardest decision of her life. She left her newborn daughter at a small orphanage, placing a single gold locket inside the baby's blanket. It was all she could give her child, a tiny token of love in a world that had forced them apart. Years passed. Victoria's life continued, but the ache never left her. Though she became one of the most powerful businesswomen in the country, her heart remained burdened by the past. On a crisp autumn evening, Victoria entered La Maison Royale, one of the most prestigious restaurants in the city. It was a routine dinner with influential investors, nothing out of the ordinary until she saw her. The waitress approaching the table was young, perhaps 25, with striking blue eyes, golden blonde hair, and delicate features. Victoria felt her breath hitch in her throat. The resemblance was uncanny. It was like looking into a mirror of her younger self. As the waitress set down the menus, Victoria's hands trembled. She read the name tag, Emma Carter. Carter, the surname of the man Victoria once loved. A name that sent a cold shiver down her spine. She barely registered the conversation at her table as her mind raced. Could it be? Was it possible? Had fate truly brought them together after all these years? Victoria couldn't shake the feeling, so she decided to investigate. That night, she made a discreet call to a private investigator, instructing him to dig into Emma Carter's past. Days later, the results came in. Emma had been abandoned as a baby and placed in foster care. She had never been adopted. She had bounced between different homes until she aged out of the system. Despite the challenges, she had worked hard, put herself through college, and was now supporting herself as a waitress while dreaming of a better future. And then, there was the detail that made Victoria's heart stop. Emma had only one item from her birth mother, a small golden locket. Victoria knew. Deep in her soul, she knew. Emma was her daughter. The next evening, Victoria returned to La Maison Royale. This time, she wasn't there for business, she was there for Emma. She waited until Emma was finished with her shift. As Emma stepped out into the cool night air, Victoria approached her. "Emma," she said softly. Emma turned, surprised. "Yes?" Victoria hesitated, then reached into her purse and pulled out a photo, a picture of herself at 22, the same age Emma was now. "This is me, when I was your age." Emma frowned, confused. "Why are you showing me this?" Victoria took a shaky breath. "Because I believe I'm your mother." Emma's face went pale. She let out a short, disbelieving laugh. No, that's impossible. My mother abandoned me. I don't know who she is." Victoria's eyes filled with tears. "I did, and I've regretted it every single day of my life." Emma took a step back, shaking her head. "Why now? Why after all these years?" Victoria swallowed hard. "Because I never knew where you were. I never stopped thinking about you. Never stopped wondering if you were safe, if you were happy. But when I saw you, I just knew." Emma stared at Victoria, emotions warring in her eyes: anger, confusion, longing. "Do you have any proof?" Victoria reached into her purse again and pulled out a small velvet pouch. Inside was a matching golden locket, identical to the one Emma had carried her whole life. Emma's hands trembled as she pulled out her own locket and opened it. Inside was a tiny, faded picture of a young Victoria. Tears welled in Emma's eyes. "All these years, I wondered if my mother ever thought about me, if she ever loved me. And now, you're telling me it was you." Victoria nodded, her own tears falling freely. "I never stopped loving you. I just made a terrible mistake, one I would do anything to fix." Emma stood in silence, staring at the woman who had abandoned her but had also never stopped searching. The woman who had everything, yet had given up the one thing that mattered most. "I don't know if I can forgive you," Emma whispered. Victoria nodded, understanding. "I don't expect you to, but I'd like to get to know you, if you'll let me." Emma hesitated, her heart torn. For years, she had imagined this moment, but it had always felt like a fantasy. Now it was real. Finally, she exhaled. "Maybe we could start with a coffee." A hopeful smile broke across Victoria's face. I'd love that. As they walked away together, something shifted in the air. The past could never be erased, but maybe, just maybe, they could build a future. A second chance, one neither of them ever thought they'd get.